Most men think attraction is created by pressure. In reality, it's created by presence. One hug done the wrong way feels forgettable. One hug done the right way lingers in her body long after you let go. Stay with me till the end, because I'll show you why the smallest details inside a hug decide whether she relaxes or leans in emotionally. Attraction is triggered through safety, first, not intensity. Most men approach attraction completely backwards. They think that the louder, bolder, and more intense they are, the faster they will trigger desire. They believe that flashing confidence or showing dominance is the way to make a woman feel drawn to them. But here's the truth that very few people understand. Attraction is not born from intensity. It is born from safety. Women, more than anything, are wired to respond to a man who can make them feel secure in his presence. This doesn't mean safety in a boring or passive way, but in a confident, calm, and grounded way that communicates without words, I am stable, I am in control of myself, and you can relax here. When a man hurries, pushes, or overdoes everything, the woman's nervous system immediately detects it. Her body perceives urgency as stress, and stress never creates desire. It creates tension, confusion, and sometimes even resistance. But when a man shows up calm, when he moves without rushing, and when he maintains steady eye contact without pressure, he communicates something far more compelling than any flashy move ever could. He communicates safety. That sense of safety is magnetic because it allows her to let her guard down. She doesn't have to evaluate his every word or movement. She can simply exist in his presence. And it's in that presence, in the subtle energy of stillness and control, that attraction begins to ignite. Safety doesn't mean passivity. It doesn't mean being timid or withholding your intentions. It means expressing yourself in a way that is consistent, steady, and non-threatening. A woman may feel instantly drawn to a man who can handle himself emotionally, who doesn't get anxious about whether she will respond positively, and who doesn't need validation from her to feel secure. That calm assurance signals that he is reliable, predictable, and comfortable in his own skin. And the human mind is instinctively attracted to these traits because they suggest long-term stability. In other words, her subconscious notices whether you are a safe emotional anchor, and that subconscious recognition often creates far more interest than any overt show of intensity or bravado ever could. Even small interactions like a hug, a touch on the arm, or a simple conversation carry signals of safety. If a man hugs a woman and does it with a steady, grounded presence, she immediately feels a subtle release of tension in her body. Her nervous system senses that she doesn't need to be on alert, and that physiological relaxation is what opens her up emotionally. In contrast, a man who grips too tightly, moves too fast, or shows any hint of anxious energy makes her subconscious signal this could be risky, which shuts down desire immediately. Every detail of your presence, your posture, your tone of voice, the steadiness of your hands communicates safety or danger. Mastery of these small cues is far more effective at creating attraction than any intense, high-pressure approach. Psychologically, the brain of a woman responds to men who can create safety in the same way it responds to pleasurable experiences. Safety lowers cortisol, the stress hormone, and increases dopamine, the reward chemical. When her body associates your presence with calm and ease, her mind starts forming positive emotional patterns linked to you. This is why high-intensity, fast-paced approaches rarely work. They spike stress, confuse emotional responses, and rarely leave a lasting imprint. But a man who prioritizes safety over intensity allows connection to build naturally. Even in the earliest stages of interaction, the subtle demonstration of safety can outweigh any superficial displays of strength or dominance. Simple actions, like listening attentively, moving with composure, or maintaining consistent energy without seeking approval, create an invisible signal that you are a man she can trust and rely on emotionally. And when a woman senses this level of security, her attraction grows organically. Safety first also allows for intimacy to develop naturally. Emotional and physical closeness cannot flourish in tension, fear, or uncertainty. But when she feels safe, even a simple hug or gentle touch communicates warmth, connection, and desire. She feels drawn in not because you forced it, but because her mind and body are relaxed enough to enjoy your presence. Why how long you hold matters more than how tight. Many men think that intensity in attraction comes from pressure, gripping harder, holding closer, or trying to physically assert their presence. They believe that if a hug is tight enough, it will automatically create a sense of intimacy or desire. But this is a common misconception that often backfires. The truth is, the duration of a hug, the length of time you allow your presence to linger, is far more powerful than the force behind it. Women respond to connection and emotional resonance, not brute strength or urgency. A hug is not a contest of strength. It's an unspoken conversation that communicates security, patience, and emotional awareness. When a man holds a hug for a deliberate amount of time, he communicates a subtle but profound message. I am here, fully present, and I am not in a rush to move away. That presence allows her nervous system to shift from alertness to relaxation. She begins to feel a release of tension, a softening of boundaries, and an unconscious awareness that being close to you is safe and pleasurable. In contrast, a man who squeezes tightly but releases too quickly sends a conflicting signal. I want this, but I cannot stay. The mismatch between intensity and presence creates discomfort and confusion. The body registers tension instead of calm, and the moment fails to create lasting impact. Time in a hug is an understated tool of attraction because it allows the woman to absorb the energy you are giving off. Every second you hold with composure, without appearing desperate or impatient, increases emotional intimacy. She senses that your intention is not transactional. It is not about fulfilling your own desire. It is about creating a shared moment of connection. And this shared moment, when done correctly, resonates deeper than any forceful attempt to trigger instant arousal. Emotional resonance lingers longer in memory than physical pressure ever could. The quality of the hold matters, but not in the way most men imagine. It is not about the strength of your arms or how tight you cling. It is about the steadiness of your energy, the grounded nature of your body, and the confidence you radiate while allowing the hug to exist naturally. When a man hugs with composure and timing, he communicates that he is in control of himself, emotionally and physically. He does not need to overcompensate with intensity because his presence alone carries weight. That subtle mastery of timing over force is what creates attraction that feels effortless and magnetic. Length also gives space for her body to synchronize with yours. A slow, steady hug allows micro movements to happen, slight shifts in posture, relaxed breathing, the natural settling of two energies aligning. This unconscious mirroring builds a sense of closeness and comfort. The longer a hug is held with intention, the more opportunity there is for this energetic alignment to occur, deepening the feeling of connection. Tightness without duration, however, skips this process entirely, creating pressure but no resonance. Additionally, holding a hug longer demonstrates emotional patience, which is often more attractive than immediate intensity. Women notice men who can be still, who can create moments without rushing, and who respect the natural rhythm of connection. These qualities communicate high emotional intelligence, stability, and maturity, traits that are far more influential in building attraction than a momentary, forceful grip ever could. A hug that is brief but intense may give a rush of adrenaline, but it rarely forms a lasting emotional imprint. A hug that is steady and measured, held just long enough to allow comfort and presence to develop, creates an imprint that lingers in memory long after the moment ends. Time allows anticipation to build naturally. A longer hug without overt pressure gives the subconscious mind room to process comfort, trust, and subtle desire. It allows a woman to feel drawn in at her own pace, making the connection feel mutual rather than forced. This is the subtle art that most men overlook, yet it is what separates a forgettable interaction from one that leaves her thinking about you long after the moment has passed. The silent communication happening in your hands. One of the most overlooked tools in attraction is the hands. Men often underestimate the subtle messages their hands convey. Hands are not just for holding, touching, or gesturing. They are a silent language that communicates intention, confidence, and emotional presence. While words carry meaning, the hands convey it before a single word is spoken. A gentle touch, a steady placement, or even a pause in movement can speak volumes. Women are highly attuned to these cues, often unconsciously, and the way you use your hands can either draw her in or create distance. The first thing to understand is that your hands are extensions of your energy. They express whether you are grounded or anxious, whether you are confident or uncertain. When a man's hands move with composure, without fidgeting, without gripping too tightly, they project stability. Stability is a key component of attraction because it signals safety. A woman senses immediately if your touch is intentional rather than reactive. When your hands communicate calm assurance, she subconsciously associates your presence with security. That sense of safety is incredibly magnetic and often more powerful than verbal compliments or overt displays of desire. Placement is critical. Where and how you place your hands determines the emotional response you elicit. A touch on the arm during a conversation, a steady hand on her back in a hug, or a light guiding touch as you move through a space, each sends a specific message, but the effectiveness comes from subtlety, not force. Hands that move too quickly, too erratically, or with visible urgency communicate desperation or impatience. On the other hand, hands that move slowly, purposefully, and with awareness create a sense of calm control. This communicates that you are a man who is present in the moment, who does not rush, and who respects both your own boundaries and hers. The temperature, pressure, and motion of your hands also communicate on a subconscious level. A warm, steady hand conveys comfort and approachability. A light touch that lingers for just a moment longer than expected communicates subtle interest without overstepping boundaries. Even the absence of movement can be powerful. When your hands are relaxed at your sides or gently placed, they show that you are confident enough to be still, that you don't need to constantly prove your presence through unnecessary gestures. Women pick up on these nuances instantly. These silent signals influence how she perceives your energy, your confidence, and your intentions, often before she can articulate them to herself. Hands also act as a bridge between physical presence and emotional connection. A hand resting lightly on her back during a hug communicates more than words ever could. It signals attentiveness, intention, and reassurance. A hand that finds hers naturally while walking or sitting nearby communicates interest and subtle desire without pressure. This is why hands are far more impactful than overly intense gestures. They allow attraction to develop organically because the communication is silent, fluid, and emotionally resonant. Perhaps most importantly, hands mirror emotional intelligence. A man who understands how to use his hands subtly demonstrates self-control, empathy, and awareness. He communicates that he can navigate physical connection with respect and intention. This creates a powerful sense of trust and comfort, which in turn heightens attraction. Women feel drawn to men who can balance presence with restraint, who can communicate desire without overstepping, and who can create moments that feel safe yet charged with emotional tension. Hands are not just tools, they are messengers. Every micro movement communicates your energy, your confidence, and your respect. Mastering the silent communication of your hands allows you to create attraction effortlessly, to deepen connection subtly, and to make your presence unforgettable. Why confidence is felt before it's understood. Confidence is one of the most magnetic traits a man can possess, but most men misunderstand what true confidence actually is. Many believe it's something that needs to be explained, justified, or broadcasted. They think confidence is in the words you say, the achievements you flaunt, or the status you display. But here's the truth: confidence is felt long before it is ever understood. It is communicated through energy, presence, and subtle cues in your behavior, long before any explanation or conversation takes place. Women, in particular, are highly attuned to this energetic signal. They may not be able to articulate why they feel drawn to a man, but they can feel it immediately when he carries himself with authentic confidence. The first layer of this phenomenon is body language. A man who walks, stands, or sits with grounded posture exudes stability. His movements are fluid, controlled, and deliberate, signaling that he is at ease in his own skin. These micro cues are absorbed subconsciously. A woman doesn't need to hear a man claim his worth. She senses it in the way he inhabits space, the tilt of his shoulders, the steadiness of his gaze, the calmness in his hands, all communicate self-assurance without words. That is why confidence is often felt instantaneously. It is an energetic message that bypasses logic and speaks directly to instinct. Another layer is emotional consistency. A man who can regulate his emotions and remain calm under pressure radiates confidence in a way that words cannot capture. Women notice subtle shifts in energy long before they understand the reason behind them. When a man does not overreact, does not seek validation, and maintains composure even in tense situations, he communicates that he is secure in himself and his environment. This emotional steadiness creates an invisible gravitational pull. It says, I am reliable, I am in control, and I am not dependent on external approval. This silent assertion of self-worth is far more attractive than the loud proclamations of confidence that many men mistakenly rely on. The way a man interacts physically also communicates confidence in an unspoken manner. Consider a simple hug, a touch on the arm, or a casual gesture of guidance. When done with intention and composure, these actions communicate assurance and presence. The confidence is not in the action itself, but in the energy behind it. A woman may feel a subtle thrill, a sense of safety, or an emotional pull, even though she may not be consciously aware of why she feels that way. That is the invisible nature of true confidence. It is transmitted through presence rather than explanation. Speech, while secondary, amplifies the feeling of confidence when it aligns with behavior. Men who speak calmly, clearly, and without unnecessary filler communicate assurance because their energy matches their words. Conversely, a man who says all the right things but shows tension, fidgeting, or nervous energy contradicts himself. Confidence cannot be argued into existence. It must be embodied. That is why a woman often feels drawn to a man before she even fully understands what makes him attractive. His confidence is an energy that precedes comprehension. Even in the smallest details, confidence resonates. A steady gaze, a relaxed hand on her shoulder, a measured step toward her. These tiny, almost imperceptible actions carry more weight than grand gestures or loud displays. Women feel this energy intuitively. They sense that he is not seeking permission to exist, not trying to prove his worth, and not desperate for affirmation. This effortless assurance creates magnetic attraction because it speaks to a deeper sense of security and trustworthiness. Ultimately, confidence is a silent language. It is the energy that a man radiates before he ever explains himself, the feeling that something about him is grounded, unshakable, and reliable. It transcends words, actions, or superficial charm. Women respond to this energy instinctively because it communicates stability, security, and presence on a level that bypasses logic entirely. The difference between neediness and grounded desire. One of the most misunderstood aspects of attraction is the fine line between neediness and grounded desire. Many men mistakenly believe that desire alone is enough to create attraction, but the way it is expressed can completely change how it is received. Neediness stems from insecurity, from the fear of not being enough or losing someone, and it immediately signals a lack of emotional self-sufficiency. Grounded desire, on the other hand, is a quiet, confident expression of interest that comes from a place of abundance. It communicates that you are drawn to her, but you do not depend on her presence to validate your worth. Women are highly sensitive to this distinction, often recognizing it subconsciously before any words are exchanged. Neediness is marked by urgency. A man who is needy moves too quickly, over-communicates, and seeks constant reassurance. His desire becomes a demand, whether subtle or overt. He may text excessively, follow up immediately, or try to monopolize attention in a way that feels suffocating. Even gestures that are meant to show affection can come across as desperate because the energy behind them is imbalanced. Women instinctively recognize neediness because it creates pressure. Instead of feeling drawn in, they feel anxious or guarded. Neediness is rooted in scarcity, the belief that connection is something that must be chased or earned, and that energy is never attractive because it lacks stability. Grounded desire, by contrast, is magnetic precisely because it is restrained and intentional. It communicates interest, but it does so without urgency, without over-reliance, and without emotional volatility. A man who expresses grounded desire is present in the moment, enjoys the interaction fully, and allows space for natural connection. He is interested, yes, but he is not dependent. He can enjoy her presence without clinging, and he can step back without panic. This energy signals abundance, the understanding that he is whole on his own, and that the connection, while desirable, is not a necessity for his emotional survival. The difference is subtle but profound. Neediness screams, "I need you to like me. I cannot handle rejection." Grounded desire whispers, "I enjoy being with you. I value our connection, and I am comfortable regardless of the outcome." Women feel this energy intuitively. The presence of grounded desire creates a sense of safety, attraction, and respect. It allows her to relax, lean in, and reciprocate naturally. Neediness, on the other hand, creates tension, subtle resistance, and emotional friction. It signals imbalance and insecurity, which triggers a natural defensive response rather than attraction. Physical interactions, even something as simple as a hug or touch, are influenced by this energy. A needy man may grab or cling too tightly, try to dominate space, or seek instant validation through physical closeness. A man with grounded desire approaches touch with intention, patience, and awareness. He allows the interaction to flow, letting her response guide the rhythm. His hands communicate interest without pressure, his posture conveys presence without desperation, and his timing allows her to meet his energy willingly. This subtle contrast is often the deciding factor between a moment that creates tension versus one that creates magnetic attraction. Emotionally, grounded desire also allows for connection without compromise. A man who is grounded in his desire can express vulnerability appropriately without using it as a tool to manipulate or elicit reassurance. He is comfortable showing interest, admiration, or affection while maintaining his sense of self. Neediness, in contrast, often disguises insecurity as affection, creating imbalance and misalignment in the interaction. Women sense the difference immediately because grounded desire comes from a stable, confident place, while neediness comes from a reactive, dependent one. Ultimately, the difference between neediness and grounded desire is energy. It is the emotional framework behind your actions, the subtle signal that communicates whether you are whole on your own or seeking validation from her presence. Women feel it before they understand it, responding not just to words or gestures, but to the invisible energy that underlies them. Grounded desire attracts naturally because it signals confidence, abundance, and emotional stability. How restraint creates far more arousal than aggression. Many men misunderstand the nature of attraction, believing that intensity, force, or aggressive pursuit is the key to sparking desire. They think that if they assert themselves strongly, push for closeness, or overwhelm with attention, they will trigger arousal. But in reality, true attraction is rarely born from aggression. It is born from restraint. Restraint signals confidence, emotional control, and respect, all qualities that create a magnetic pull. When a man exercises restraint, he communicates that he is secure, self-aware, and capable of navigating desire without being consumed by it. This subtle energy is far more compelling than overt pressure because it invites a woman to lean in rather than forcing her to respond. Restraint allows anticipation to build. When a man refrains from rushing a hug, a touch, or an intimate gesture, he creates space for tension to accumulate naturally. This tension is what generates excitement and arousal. Aggression, on the other hand, often collapses tension too quickly. It demands a response before she is ready, creating discomfort or resistance instead of intrigue. A simple pause, a slow movement, or a deliberate hesitation communicates interest without pressure, allowing her mind and body to adjust and respond willingly. Women sense this subtle rhythm. They feel the controlled energy, and it triggers attraction more deeply than any forceful attempt could. The psychological effect of restraint is rooted in human instinct. Aggression signals unpredictability or danger on a subconscious level. Even when a man's intentions are good, if he overwhelms, grabs, or presses for immediacy, it can trigger the body's stress response rather than desire. Restraint, by contrast, signals emotional stability. It says, I am aware of myself, I understand my desire, and I can regulate it. I am not desperate for instant gratification. This demonstration of control is incredibly attractive because it provides a sense of safety while simultaneously creating an undercurrent of tension. Women are drawn to that balance of security and excitement. It is the foundation of irresistible chemistry. Restraint also enhances the subtle communication of touch. A man who is patient with where and how he touches demonstrates mindfulness and emotional intelligence. Each hand placement, each moment of contact becomes meaningful rather than mechanical. The contrast between her anticipation and his controlled response heightens sensitivity and emotional engagement. She feels that every gesture is intentional and that energy creates a sense of intimacy that aggression can never achieve. The slow, deliberate approach communicates value. It signals that he is not just reacting to desire, but choosing to express it in a way that respects both himself and her experience. Subtle daily interactions, restraint creates a magnetic effect. A patient smile, a slow step toward her during conversation, a measured pause before offering touch. All of these small gestures communicate that a man is in control of his desire. He is choosing, not demanding. That choice is perceived as power, confidence, and value. It elevates the interaction from mere physicality to emotional and psychological engagement. Arousal is not just about the body, it is about anticipation, mental engagement, and the release of tension at the right moment. Restraint, more than aggression, cultivates all of these components seamlessly.